All right. Hi, Ashley.
Hello.
Happy Wednesday.
Yep, it's Wednesday again.
So I'm a grown woman and I still say Wednesday in
Uh-huh.
my head. Do
I
you?
do that when I'm
Yeah,
spelling it.
I'm gonna do. I still say it in my head. Wednesday. Well, maybe we should just do it in Spanish or something. What is it in Spanish? Miércoles? Something like that.
I don't know.
All right. Well, that was a very clumsy start. Excited to talk today. I feel like so we're at Wednesday. As we're talking about what we're going to what we want to talk about today with Martech,
Yeah.
the idea of what is the blend right now of humans and technology. I feel like I've had this conversation like 3 times, and
Yeah.
literally like an hour ago, I was live with Trax
Hmm.
on their freight market webinar, and we were pretty much talking about this, right?
Yeah.
Like what is going to be the balance moving forward. So you mentioned that you've like seen some articles, seen some polls and stuff lately.
Hmm.
I think everyone in marketing is asking this question, right?
Hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
talk me through what you're seeing and then let's talk about it.
Yeah. All right. So a couple articles that were published in the last couple days. One was referencing the new Typeform research on AI and its use in marketing. So now they're saying, okay, so first, let me say this is a poll of 2,500 marketers. Oh, no, sorry, 2,500 respondents, 1,100 marketers, and the rest consumers. So not fully all marketers, even though it says in marketing as the title. But that survey basically says that 95% of marketers now use AI, which I think is probably quite accurate. Um, and of the 95%, 79% of that is copywriting and written. Makes complete sense. 57% is visuals and graphics, and 39% is video and motion design. And I think that
Sounds right.
makes a lot of sense, especially in marketing. Even though I think that we come across a lot of marketing teams that, well, I guess I could say it's in that breakdown that makes sense, and it can be used in a lot of other ways that are like beyond that, right? So yeah, I just thought that was an interesting survey that came out, pretty accurate, I would say, just from.
But like kind of sad because if you think about it, okay, like it's shallow. Like people are scratching the surface of what AI can do because
True.
when because the course that we're teaching, the stuff we show our clients, and people are like jaw dropping, whatever, and we're like, we still don't feel like what we're doing is crazy advanced, but it is. Like
Right.
the advanced automations and stuff like that feel like light years ahead. But the reason that kind of sucks to me is that I feel like marketers were among the first
Mm-hmm.
to adopt AI or start experimenting with AI. And yet, I don't think that the skills have matured. Like, it's like, okay, we've been at
No,
this for
that's a
2 or
good
3
point. Yeah.
years. Have we gotten better? Like, have we
Yeah.
learned more than chatbots?
Right. I think what's gotten better are the chatbots or like the, AI tools that we've used
But
where
we
we're
haven't necessarily gotten better at using them. Like,
no.
maybe we're slightly more capable prompt engineers.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, it's true. And and there's a lot of, like we talked about this last week, the SaaS product or all the products out there that and tools that we use have AI in some capacity, but still that also doesn't really scratch the surface of what AI can do. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. All right. So the other article that I thought was interesting, and this has also come up in conversation where, it related to PR because we offer PR services. And I think this holds true to exactly like how we talk about it and what faith does. So this is another survey that came out and basically saying that, let's see, earned content, like 90%. So earned content is driving nearly 90% of trust information. So that is all of the influence, right? So like PR activities. And I thought that was really interesting because the way that we budget in marketing is generally that gets the lowest allocation of budget. Yeah. And it's hard because it's hard to measure earned influence. Like how does one measure that? How do you show the ROI? Except for backlinks or like mentions, things like that. But
okay, now that's super interesting, because I think one of the promises of technology and having a really mature, well integrated tech stack is that you're going to have absolute visibility into every lever that's influencing your customer acquisition, your customer retention, right? Your close rates, your ROI. Like, so, I think it's an interesting tension that's happening, because there, it goes back to the days of like, remember when we used to do direct mail? Only you and I can have this conversation. But one of the frustrating things with direct mail, right, was like, until QR codes came along, it was like, maybe you would have like a code when you could be like, mention this when you come in and we'll give you a discount,
Right.
It wasn't traceable, right?
Yeah.
So going digital was so transformational for so many of us in this field, because it was the technology created traceability so that we could then measure the effect of our efforts, right? So we could say, like, we know that this impacted this and that ultimately resulted in this. And that's what every, I guess, like C-suite has come to expect from marketing.
Right.
And I think they're coming to expect that in increasing detail, right? Of like, now I want to break down of like, okay, so they came to the website from organic traffic. I want to know which page they came to. I want to know how far they scrolled on that page. I want to know, the amount of detail we're expected to deliver is pretty insane, I guess. But also then you've got what you just described, where, okay, if 90% of what's building trust is earned media, that comes down to humans, usually executives, being out there in the world, having a perspective, communicating that perspective in their own voice. Like, that is not a very tech-driven activity. Like, that is extremely human.
Yeah. And I think that it's fascinating, because it kind of leads right into our conversation of like, what is the role of humans in marketing and with AI and all of the tech that we have. Like, how do we blend the two together? And I think that, PR has been something that maybe has had a bit of a bad rap, or like where it's just not as something that we necessarily want to do or that executives want to do, but it's so important. And we have seen through the broadcast, like you were just saying, you were on one, the Tracks broadcast, and those types of initiatives is where you get that earned trust. So it doesn't always need to be like the paid, PR activities, but just having a presence and being visible and having your team go out there. And
but I think there's a movement that counters that idea, and it's one that Faith especially has like had to be really, and Faith is our press director for anyone who's watching this, but there's a wave of PR technology that has emerged in Martech that are these AI driven systems that basically create like pitch blankets, right? Where they just like do this like pitch spray across all these different platforms. They automate communication with journalists, they automate pitching, they automate, even vetting. I think you can do like vetting calls with media outlets via AI and like all this kind of stuff, right? So there's an emerging like category of MarTech that is trying to handle the PR function and really create like automation within that function. And I think, when Faith and I have talked about it, like both of us just really, because we've even been on sales calls with companies because we've kind of gone, is this something we should invest in? Like, is this the way this is going? And we've both just kind of said like, no, like, even if this is the way this is going, this isn't the way we want to do it. Because you're taking the whole point of public relations, right, is to take somebody in the uniqueness of who they are and the uniqueness of what they think and how they communicate, and then spread that message, right? And maybe I'm being naive and optimistic, but I don't want to taint that by you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I mean, I suppose that the other argument is there is a balance too, like the operational, I think that that's kind of where AI does work well, is in the operational side of things. So if there are the operational tasks within PR that can be handled, that's great. And I don't see a problem with it. But I agree, like when you get to the interview and you're actually wanting that human interaction and for the personality to come out, it's really difficult to do it other than having the actual person do it. And I still am in the belief that like people sell to people, especially like when you're in the enterprise, like reaching more enterprise level, bigger companies and more expensive products, like that human person-to-person connection is still tops everything in terms of, sales.
Yeah.
But
I think so too.
I'm not a sales professional, but
yeah, I mean, I'm not either, but nor do I want to be.
Yeah.
But okay, but I also think that there's an interesting dynamic that's occurred here where like an argument could be made that we're making an automatic assumption when we come into and even are sold technologies of scale, right? So the idea behind, like, let's say a PR technology that scales pitching, right? Automates pitching for scalability. That's the point, right? So you can do more, so you can get more placement. We're automatically assuming that more is better, right? And I think it's very similar to how, like, my example of like when we used to do everything analog, right? And we had direct mail or whatever. You think even 20, 30 years ago, the circle of influence that the average executive needed or wanted to have to be successful was significantly smaller. So like pre-social media, normal people weren't famous.
Right.
Now there's like a minimum threshold expectation that I should put up a video and it should get 1,000 views. Like, do you know 1,000 people?
Right.
Like, if you went out to lunch, would you go out to lunch with 1,000 people in a networking event? Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but we have an economy of scale that's happened psychologically that I think has opened the door for technologies like this to seem useful and to seem almost essential, of like, oh, this is the obvious next step because more is better.
Right.
And I wonder sometimes if we got to like step back for a second and be like, how many people do we actually need to reach to be effective?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, and even if you think, okay, although, it can pitch to all of these outlets and whatever, the interview that has to happen or the article that needs to be written still has to come from the one individual. So we also see a lot of opportunities come in, but then the executive turns down most of them because of time.
Yeah.
Or, they're weighing the options, like what's the most impactful, or like where do I want to be or speak, and who does that like outlet speak to, or who's their audience. So it still does, despite like us or technology wanting to like have all of these opportunities come in, it still only ends up being a small amount. So yeah, I mean, is it just you start small from the beginning?
Yeah, and don't bother with the other. I mean, I think it also, very much is relevant to the conversation of like, what's the role of technology and the role of humans, and what's the labor share of those two things within the marketing discipline? Yeah. Because if we say, okay, the tech stack is increasingly encroaching on certain kinds of tasks, I think that one of the places that we're at highest risk of maybe losing credibility and losing effectiveness is when we let content that is supposed to be thought leadership, big opinions about this, be generated by freaking AI. And I mean, I'm a ghostwriter. I get the hypocrisy of this, right? Like I have ghostwritten things that other people have published.
Right.
So I get it's a little hypocritical, but you know, I got to feed my kids. But the idea of like, you have to have ideas that are actually like interesting, and then you have to be able to communicate those ideas in an interesting way. Otherwise, you don't actually have influence, right? You're not actually going to have an audience. But I think when we, with the proliferation, is that the right word?
Possibly. I don't know what
proliferation. How many? Is that 5 syllables? Of AI generated content, we're watching trust go like this. Because like even today I was on TikTok and somebody was like, oh, it was like some video of some like talking head or whatever. And I was like watching it. And then in the comments, a bunch of people were like, oh, this is definitely AI.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't think it is, like, you know, but I think there's just this like, it's seeping into the minds of people to question all the media that they encounter. And like, I wish maybe it should.
Yeah. I mean, I that happened just like an hour ago, and you know, husband showed a video, and my son and I were like, oh yeah, I think that's AI. You know, same thing.
But a lion can't do a backflip, Paul.
Right. Right. It did have a lion in it, or a tiger or something. But yeah, and I think, you know, even if you're getting into the community aspect, right? If you're wanting to build a community, and like we're seeing the effectiveness of communities, whether it's Reddit or Discord, but then having AI comments in there and trying to, you know, decipher, like, do I respond to this because is it just an AI generated content that's trying to like stir the pot on an issue or something. So I think that is really challenging, and you do have to question, and it creates a bigger challenge for, like you were saying, the thought leadership pieces, because you want it to come from the person and to be their, you know, their knowledge that they're sharing. Yeah, I think it's challenging.
I think there's another tension point, you know, with this idea of, you know, technology and humans in marketing, especially, is like, what is the actual game we're playing, and who are we actually playing it with? Because like, I've seen a couple articles that have come out lately on like generative engine optimization, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, well, should we just be writing content, which asinine, just do good SEO. Should we just be writing content for generative engines, and what do generative engines want?
Right.
Yeah. And like, humans aren't even a consideration, right? And it's like a very strange way of thinking, where it's like, I mean, the fact that people, like a normal person who's not even in marketing, uses the word algorithm in their everyday speak cracks me up. They're like, oh, it's just my algorithm showing me that, whatever. Like, how do you guys know what this is? But they do, like,
crazy.
People are pretty well educated on this stuff. But so the idea of like, when you're creating content for a social media feed, when you're creating content for websites, things like that, like, who are you actually creating it for? What is the actual game? And I don't mean to dismiss the idea that there is an element of it that is just a game, right? That like, the way you format it, the way where you put a question, or, you know, a component, it's a game, right? You're appealing to the way that the platform is structured, and so that you can become more visible.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think, was it earlier this week or last week, we had this conversation also just about with writing website content, right? I mean, a lot of people go to Claude, ChatGPT to ask the question and do the research. So there is an element of writing the content on your website to show up there, but then they'll go to, from there, they go to the website to convert essentially, but that's their purpose. Like they're not there to like dig in and look for the information anymore. They're finding it all when they do the research and in the generative engine, and then they just go and say like, okay, I want to schedule a consultation or like fill out the form to give me more information. So yeah, it is a balance because you want it to be compelling when they get there, but their decision may not be made by visiting the site. It may be made like externally now. So there is like a balance because you do need a bit of human element and like appeal for a user to go on there and trust, like to trust trust your website, but the decision isn't always made there anymore.
Well, and I think the very nature of this conversation is probably part of the answer, which is if you don't know where you're going, you don't want to get there faster.
Right.
Like, so one of the key roles for a human in marketing is to chart the path, right? Is to do the observation that an AI can't do in the real world and digitally and say, how are people behaving? Right. I mean, to my thinking, always behavioral economics is the backbone of marketing because it's like how people behave is the code we have to crack. And if we can do that, then we can be successful. But a lot of observation and analysis has to go into that because you've got to be able to look at, how is people's behavior changing and on which platforms, and then what are the rules, and then how am I going to play that game most successfully in all those different places, right? And then, then if we've got it all mapped, then we can go fast.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess like in marketing, I would say, the human element is that strategy, right? Like that's where we need humans to really observe, build the strategy, and have AI assist with content or whatever. But there is that balance there.
And keep testing, because I will say, like, I think, we've talked about it before, but I think one of our strengths at Winsome is that we do experiment a lot, right?
Yes.
We don't really care too much if the experiment works. Like I blew up our website. I've blown up our website so many times because I'm like, well, let's just try this, right? Because our website is low stakes. If I ruin our website, fine, it's not a client.
Right, exactly.
But I think, a human can look at all these different variables and then make some hypotheses and then go test those in the real world, right? Against all the different factors that are in play. But I think the challenge is like when we start to outsource the thinking piece to technology, and we say like, so I think that's one risk. We outsource the thinking piece and we say like, we're just going to do the thing. We're just going to go, right? We're not going to think about what we're doing. This is the way to do it. So we're just going to go there faster. And it's like, do you even know where you're going? Like, I don't want to necessarily get there faster. So like outsourcing the critical thinking piece. And then I think the other is like not knowing the technology well enough. Because I think it's like we said before in this conversation, like everyone has gone like an inch deep. All we're doing is chatbots. Like, like nobody's trying to do anything more. Nobody's learning how to code anymore. Everyone's saying like AI is going to be able to handle X, Y, or Z. And so I feel like we've all largely stopped most of our technological education, I guess, technological growth.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. It is kind of almost, like hitting the easy button, like, oh, we'll just plug this in, it'll work, and it's going to tell us what to do, or, like put in an AI chat on their website or whatever, and then we don't have to answer customer problems anymore, and that's not really how it works, nor do customers really want to get answers from AI because they're not great yet.
There were a bunch of Reddit threads about that were like customer, like there's a bunch of like anti-AI customer service or something.
Yeah.
It's like subreddit,
Mm-hmm.
people just like popping off about it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I think there's a huge, I think people underestimate, first of all, how wired we are to default to easy things.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Right.
we just are, we're wired that way. And that's fine. But you have to actively counter that if you want to stay sharp.
Yeah. Yes.
And then I think too, like people underestimate how fast you can start to rely on something.
Mm-hmm.
Like you get a good pillow, you're never going to go back. Like you get something that's comfortable and easy and restful and whatever, and you come to rely on it within days, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're like, holy crap, how did I function? How did I function
Mm-hmm.
before ChatGPT? And I think if,
Mm-hmm.
if marketers have that thought, they should be scared.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. Yeah, because you stop asking, you just stop asking those like critical questions of why, and like you're saying, dig deeper, do more research beyond AI to tell you what the answer is. Um, yeah, I mean, I've fallen into that trap just in terms of like vibe coding
Mhm.
and build me this, you know, creating things and then realizing like, oh yeah, doesn't actually work, and I have to go through and like go through the code and figure it out, and then I'm like, okay, now I'm learning. But yeah, it's just so easy to assume, have a create something and then it just be totally wrong.
Mhm.
And that's another thing too, is just all of the like fact checking, right? Like we still need to do so much fact checking even with generated content, and even if you're asking and saying, are all these resources valid or whatever, like you have to go through and check every single statistic that is created
Yeah.
or that it gives you, because a lot of it's made up.
Yeah. Well, and I think everyone is, I mean, quality is a concern, but I would say like we should go a step further and consider that, like, yes, let's not go to the lowest common denominator in terms
Mm-hmm.
of quality. Let's not settle for mediocrity and allow technology to just create all of our content, all of our graphics, all of our whatever, and AI just take over all of that, because we could, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think we
Sure.
need to count the cost of like, what will we lose if we do?
Mm-hmm.
Because then we're all painting with the same exact palette.
Yeah.
So then everything is going to look the same.
Yeah. It's pretty vanilla.
And that becomes a problem because then nothing stands out. Nothing arrests somebody's attention. And so
Mm-hmm.
then we're going to have an entire consumer base that just not only doesn't trust what they see, they don't care. Like
Yeah.
it's not interesting to them anymore because it's
Yeah.
all completely boring.
Yeah. I read an article earlier, I think it was this weekend, about millennial branding, or yeah, for the millennials. So basically, I maybe like 10 years ago, for like the past 10 years, where it's been like the very modern-ish style branding, and now it's that type of branding is almost being rejected by consumers because it became so vanilla. Like everything looked very much the same, the colors, the typography. And I think that's a great example of like, yeah, over time, it just, nothing stands out because it all looks the same.
Yeah. And you
So,
don't notice what's familiar. I
right.
mean, that's just a basic principle of psychology. Like, you don't
Yeah.
know what your house smells like.
Yeah.
You don't, because you're nose blind to it, because it's your house. Like,
Yeah.
so I think, yeah, we become really familiar with things and then they no longer stand out to us. So I think that's a huge risk, right, of technology dependence. And
Mm-hmm.
especially when AI is increasingly taking over creative tasks. So
Right.
again, we talk about like, what's the balance? So it's almost like, I guess if we were to like, there's no wrapping up this.
I know, I was going to say.
And there shouldn't be. Like we should have this conversation all the time,
Yeah. Yeah.
because nobody is gonna, first of all, AI governance is not coming anytime soon in the
Mm-hmm.
US.
Mm-hmm.
Like, God help us, right? Like, I mean, first of all, we have all the states to deal with. And
Right.
then if the federal government does anything, who knows? But like, so we're gonna have to be self-governed in our
Mm-hmm.
use of this, in our ethical treatment of it, in our, whatever approach to it. but I think it's one of those, we've got to constantly be gut checking as we want to advance our use of this, our capabilities with it. We want to go faster. We want to do better. We want to, improve in every way. And we want technology to play a role in that, but we need to do it in a way that's like really intentional.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like 2025 was just like grab bag of everything, try everything, like see if it works. And 26 is, there's more intentionality around it. Like, let's assess the situation and see what actually is working for us and where can we improve or what can be improved on the things that are working. It's going to be an interesting year, I think, to see how things develop.
I think so too.
Yeah. Well, that was a fast 30 minutes.
Yeah. Next time we need to like both have, wait, I have coffee with me. I have iced coffee.
I have liquid IV.
Feel better. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks, Ashleigh.
Thank you.